Trigger warning. This episode includes sensitive topics such as addiction, mental health struggles, sibling loss, and pregnancy loss. These subjects may be distressing for some listeners. Please take care of your mental well being while listening and know that support is available.
For the haters, come on to it now or later. Yeah. It don't matter what your name is, share your story. We'll be waiting. Yeah. For the haters, whoa.
Welcome back, everyone, to For The Hayters. Today, we're sharing a story that highlights resilience, transformation, and overcoming unimaginable loss. Our guest, Brittany, is a 29-year-old mother of three who has faced incredible challenges throughout her life, from growing up in a household shaped by addiction and mental health struggles to losing her siblings and experiencing the devastating loss of her first son during pregnancy. Brittany's journey is one of survival and strength, but it doesn't end there. She has turned her pain into power, losing over 130 pounds, becoming a personal trainer, and competing in bodybuilding shows. Today, she's sharing her story of perseverance, self-discovery, and finding purpose in helping others. Let's get into it. Brittany, welcome to For The Haters, and thank you for being here.
Thank you
I
for
would
having me.
Of course. I would love to just start off if you can just introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background about your journey.
All right, well, we're going to start with the obvious. My name is Brittany. I'm 29. I was born and raised in Michigan up until I was a sophomore in high school. And then I moved to North Dakota, where I still live. Um, when I was a baby, up until about 8 years old, my biological dad was in prison for manslaughter. So I was raised by my stepdad, who during this I will refer to as my dad.
Okay.
So my mom and my dad raised me. It was not the greatest environment to grow up in. We'll just start with that. My mom struggles a lot with her mental health, and she doesn't take the right steps to deal with her mental illnesses. She kind of does the opposite of what she should be doing. So my home life growing up was extremely toxic,
Mm-hmm.
from my parents fighting to like us fighting and just all the things. So I remember, I hate to admit it, but middle school and elementary school, I remember being kind of a bully. I was the bully, not the one being bullied. And it was the way that I dealt with my home life. It was like, when I say toxic, I mean just I would dread going home. I would dread waking up. I would dread leaving my bedroom. So when I would get to school and see all these kids with what I thought was a great life, I would just nitpick them. And I, again, hate to admit that, but um, as we moved to North Dakota, things changed a lot for me because the environment is very different. So my I was the middle sibling of five, and then I became the oldest because my older brother and my older sister both lost their lives to heroin and fentanyl. And so that was a big part of how my adult life started.
Mm-hmm.
And then we jump into I lost my own son at 24 weeks pregnant. And I was only 19 when that happened. So I would say up until my early 20s, my life was just chaos, toxic, and then loss,
Mm-hmm.
losing people extremely close to me. Um, I think that sums a lot of it up. Well, and I guess I should say, with all that stuff that happened, I gained a lot of weight. Many people struggle with their weight their whole lives, and I was one of them. But my early adulthood, when I started going through the losses I was going through, I dealt with the grief by the couch and eating. So I
Mm.
approached close to 300 pounds
Wow.
before I decided to use all of that as fuel to turn my life around.
Hmm. Yeah, and I've obviously a lot to kind of talk about, a lot of questions about a lot of different things. I would love
Yeah.
if you could, maybe just start with you spoke to growing up in a household fueled by addiction and mental health struggles. And I'm curious if you can kind of talk a little bit more about what that was like and how it shaped your early years. I know that you mentioned being the bully, but really, what was that like? That's funny. How did that shape your relationships with your family and with your siblings, and just a little bit more into that detail of what that was like?
So, family for me now is completely different than it was back then. I didn't really understand. It sounds silly to say I didn't understand what having a family was, but I didn't.
I
I
don't think that sounds silly at all. I think it sounds completely valid, right? Like,
Yeah, especially because, like, okay, so I do have a big family, which even as an adult is hard to look at because we don't have relationships. I feel
mhm,
like my family, there's lots of aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents, but for the most part, it's the mom, the dad, their kids. That's the family. Everybody else around, for me specifically, we never had a relationship because with my mom's mental health, it was so much easier for everybody to distance themselves and not involve themselves with us than it
mhm,
was for them to deal with her. So for me, growing up with a family, it was my mom, my dad, my siblings, and I thought the arguing and the screaming and yelling and all of that was normal up
mhm,
until probably about 15 to 16 when I started making more, like I started going more places and I started working and I was experiencing seeing other families together and I realized that my life was not very normal.
yeah,
A typical day, like in my childhood, what like I would wake up in the morning, my mom would already be gone. So I dog her a lot with like talking about her mental illnesses, but that woman worked. She
mhm,
worked about 4 or 5 jobs when I was growing up to make sure that my siblings and I had everything that we needed. That was her way of loving us. There
mhm,
wasn't much physical love, there wasn't much attention or affection or anything, but she showed her love by working and providing for us. So when I would wake up in the morning, my mom would typically be gone. So I was raised very young to get myself up, get myself ready, get to the bus stop, get to school. And when I would get home from school, we'd eat a snack or something. I don't think we ever sat down and had dinner as a family, or like
mhm,
my mom would make us dinner or anything like that. It was a lot of grab a bag of chips and a little Debbie and go to your room. Um, I don't want to say we never had toys or anything, but I don't remember playing a lot because my mom's like everything had to be super neat all the time. So like if we had toys out, we were getting yelled at that the house was messy, or if we had friends over, they were listening to my mom yell. So I just remember everything being very chaotic.
mhm,
Um my my sister's addiction started, gosh, I think I was probably 10 or younger, maybe younger, when my sister got addicted to heroin. So having a relationship with her was a lot different than with my brother. His issues didn't start with that until he was a lot older. So we were very close, like very close. My sister, my brother, and I had the same mom and dad.
mhm.
And then I have two little brothers who
Your stepdad.
have it, yeah, who were born with my stepdad. So my older sister and brother and I, we just had a different bond. We were
Yeah, of
very,
course.
very close.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because it was like we just honestly had each other.
yeah.
So yeah.
And I mean, that must carry a lot more weight too, and what are your two older siblings' names? What's your older brother and sister's names?
My sister's name is Ashley, and then my
Mhm.
brother's name is Ronnie.
Ronnie. And so, losing Ashley and Ronnie, those were your direct connection to both your parents. They're probably the only people that understood your feelings. So that adds like a whole complete different layer of like trauma bonding with people and then losing those people as well.
Yeah.
How old were you when they passed away, and how did those losses impact your life?
So my sister passed away 2 months after I graduated high school. So she died in August of 2013. And then this is going to kind of jump all over the place because we'll come back to it probably later.
Mhm.
But my brother died in March 4th of 2017. He died 1 week after I had my son Weston.
Mhm.
So they died about 4 years from each other. My brother was in prison when my sister died. So they were best friends. I mean, my relationship with them was nothing compared to their relationship with each
Together.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when my sister died, and my brother was in prison, like I said, so he couldn't go to her funeral, he couldn't be at anything. And from that moment on, I knew my brother would never be good again ever. And I hate
Mhm.
to say that just because it's like we have so many opportunities in life to pick ourselves up or create a different outlook. But I knew for my brother, losing my sister like that and not being able to be there, I don't think he ever would have recovered from that.
Yeah. And you there's so many things, right? Even with your biological father being in jail and the emotional trauma that you dealt with in the household that you were raised in, at what point in life was it o- obvious to you or something, clicked that you needed to there was something wrong, right? Like this wasn't a life that a kid should be living, or like at what point do you start that healing process, right? Like, or is it obviously there's still healing that needs to be uncovered, I'm sure, and even having a dad that's incarcerated, there's levels of trauma around
Yeah.
that.
So I don't think I've ever healed like all the way. And I've never done the therapy that I should to work through these things. I think we all could benefit from a little therapy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I would say before my siblings even died, I would say when I was about 16, I was just like, I've got to figure out a way to get myself out of this environment to better myself. It
Hmm.
didn't happen immediately. I was 16. It didn't happen right away and it didn't happen for a very long time. But I knew from that moment forward, I didn't want to be like my mom. I love my dad, but I didn't necessarily want to be like my dad. I
Hmm.
seen my brother, even though he wasn't addicted to drugs at this point, he was in and out of juvenile. And then as soon as he became an adult, he was also in and out of prison and whatnot. So I knew I didn't want to be like them. So it was always from 16 forward, I was always trying to work harder to be different. I just
Hmm.
did not want to have the same life that they did. My biological dad being in prison, it didn't affect me when I was a kid because I had my dad there with me. And then when I was in, I believe it was ninth grade, I found out why he went to prison. I had
Hmm.
been, I don't want to say lied to because I was a little girl, but I had been
Yeah.
fibbed to, is what we'll call it,
Hmm.
my whole life. And then when I was in ninth grade, my brother found some paperwork, like the court documents, and we read it, and I found out why he actually went to prison. And that created trauma for me because I was like, my dad went to prison for manslaughter. I think I mentioned that at the beginning.
Hmm.
And when I was reading the details about what happened, it was an accident, but it wasn't at the same time because he got into a physical altercation with one of his friends at the bar, and he killed him. And so for me, for a long time, I was like, could I do that? Like, could I be like him? Like,
Yeah. Is that a
I,
part
cause
of me
at
too?
that was when the bullying thing hit me. I was like, I'm a freaking bully.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was like when I call myself a bully, I don't think I was like ruining people's lives or
Yeah.
anything, but I wasn't nice. I wasn't nice and I wasn't the nice girl. And so I think ninth grade was like a big moment for me where I was like, I need to treat people fucking better.
Hmm.
I've got to be better.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of just trying to be different than my family.
Is there any connection that you have with your dad, your biological dad? Like, was there any like communication? Is he still in jail?
So okay, so when he got out of prison, my mom tried to, because my brother and my sister were older than me, so they had a relationship with him. And because I was a baby when he went to prison, we didn't really have one. I had visited him like maybe a handful of times while he was
Mhm.
there. But every single time my mom would let me go visit him, he would get drunk. He would hurt my sister or one of the neighbors or his girlfriend, and he would go to jail every single time. So
Mhm.
it came to a point where my mom and dad were like, you can't go there no more because I was second, third grade, and these are what the things I'm seeing. So, um, and I had always had some kind of trauma when it came to going to visit my dad because when I was in, oh, I'm going to butcher the year, but I, somewhere between kindergarten and first grade, my grandmother died. And that was my biological dad's mom. So at her funeral, he came, but he was in prison, so he was with the guards and his legs were shackled and his arms were shackled. He had, I don't know what it was, but it was like something on his neck, and I think it was so they could pull it over if he got out of hand or something. I didn't really understand, but I never looked at him like a dad or like somebody I could love because I was
Mhm.
terrified of him. I was
Yeah.
terrified. Um, I longed for his love, but like when I would actually get around him, I was scared.
Yeah.
So I think that was a little different for me. Um, when I was a teenager, I tried again to have a relationship with him. My 16th birthday, actually. My mom did like this whole sweet 16 thing, and he came to North Dakota to work, which we hadn't had a relationship for a very long time. And I just remember, I don't remember what he said to me, but I remember like he just talked to me like I meant nothing to him. And I was just like, I don't know why I'm trying for this. I don't need this. I have a dad at home who loves me. I don't need this. So I decided from that time forward, I was done.
Mhm.
Um, and I stuck to that. The only time I really spoke to him or seen him after that was at my sister's funeral. And after my sister died and my brother got out of prison, he chose to have a relationship with Ron, who is our biological dad. So he chose to have a relationship with him and he tried to force me. My brother did. He really tried to force that relationship on me, but it was traumatic and I had no interest in it. So I did everything I could to avoid it. And I think that was the best thing for me because my brother suffered
Sure.
a lot with his relationship with him. In January of, I think it was February of 2021, because my last child was a baby still.
Mhm.
I got a phone call from my uncle in Alabama because at this point my biological dad moved to Alabama. Um, I got a phone call that he was on life support and that they were going to be pulling the plug on him. I'm awful. I don't remember exactly what happened. I just remember he drank a lot. And so something with his drinking happened and his kidneys were shutting down, his liver was shutting down, his
Mhm.
heart was shutting down. So they had asked me to come to Alabama for when they took him off life support. So I went, I took my newborn baby and I flew to Alabama and what I thought was going to get was closure. I thought I was going to get some closure. We were going to take him off life support. And honestly, I thought I was going to move forward from there. But the day that we went to do that, my uncle decided not to. So
Hmm.
that 100% his choice, by the way. So I was like, I'm going to go home then because I don't want to see him awake. If he wakes up, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Um, which again probably sounds awful, but
It doesn't. You keep
um,
you keep putting yourself in this situation where you're being judged, and you're absolutely not being judged
I
at
think
all.
I
So,
judge myself. I don't mean
yeah,
to, but
yeah.
um, because I look at it and I
All
know
your
it's
feelings are
not.
so incredibly valid of just like the thoughts that you're having. Like any person
Yeah.
would feel that same way. So,
I think just because it's my situation, I'm like, gosh, maybe I should have done that differently, but I
yeah, of
know there was
course.
no other route to
Yeah.
take. But so I decided to come home, which was a good decision for me because I don't know how, when you're on dialysis because all your organs are shutting down, this man who has had drug issues, he's an alcoholic, they said he is not going to wake up, like all these things. He woke up, girl, he woke up. And so his brain wasn't where it was before that stuff happened. So he was himself, but he wasn't himself. So my uncle said, he's because before I left, my uncle said, if he wakes up, what are you going to do? I said, if he wakes up and he takes this opportunity and decides to be a a decent human being, he stops drinking, and maybe we could try to build some kind of relationship.
Yeah.
But if he wakes up and he goes back to the same things he was doing, then I just don't need that in my life. He woke up and I think he tried the sober thing because he didn't remember that he was an alcoholic. But his wife was also an alcoholic and she taught him back to his ways. And I hate to say it like that, but he did not know he was an alcoholic. He didn't know what alcohol was when he woke back up. So he had to been taught those things again.
Hmm.
Um, and so my stepmom, technically, his wife, and him have now both passed away.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, so he died in January of 2024, so just a little over a year ago. And when he did die, he was drinking again and all the things. So I just felt like I wasn't, I didn't have the capacity within myself to grieve the loss of my biological dad. Um, I still don't know that I have. I don't know that it's hit me to this day that he's gone and that there's no opportunity to rekindle that relationship or anything. Someday I think it might affect me. Someday I
Hmm.
might feel a little hurt by it. But as of right now, I'm kind of cold to the situation, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another level, right? I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you have so many levels of trauma that it's just another kind of level that's added to it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe one day everything gets dealt with, but maybe it's better kind of left where it is.
I shouldn't even say this on here, but people should know that we all deal with shit. My uncle sent me a necklace with some of his ashes in it.
Hmm.
It has been in my glove box for a year because I'm like, his energy has always been something that has never been good for me.
Yeah.
And I mentioned losing my son. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I have his ashes at home and I'm like, I don't want this man with my baby. So I leave him in my glove box, which probably shows I am traumatized. I
I
am
think valid.
traumatized, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
So
so understandable.
yeah, so I always say I'm going to take them to a pastor to have them blessed. So maybe someday I'll feel a little more comfortable taking them in my home.
Yeah.
But as of right now, he's with me just in the
I
glove
think, I
box.
mean, I don't, we obviously don't know each other at all. I know, like, I know the bits and pieces about you that you've shared with me already, but
Yeah.
from what I can tell is, these weights aren't really currently affecting your life, and you're able to kind of have the good things that you work on and work towards and work forward, and you're building the life that you've always kind of dreamed of. And maybe sometimes if it's not something that's really holding you back in that moment, then it's kind of worth it to just put it on the shelf for now.
Yeah. And I think that's where I'm at because I'm approaching 30. I'm probably one of the only people you'll meet that is so excited to be 30. I'm so excited.
30s are the best years of your life. So
Yes, I'm gonna be 30, flirty, and thriving, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Maybe not flirty. I'm not very flirty, but like 30 and thriving is great.
all the
But
other things, yeah.
yes. So as I've approached 30s, I've just like I've got to let this shit go. It's a part of me, and I need
Yeah.
to. I've really done my soul searching. Again, I should
Mhm.
probably do some therapy, and I will at some point. It just hasn't been the right time for me, but I've really done soul searching, and I've really, really, really tried to use my traumas to create a different life for myself and for my kids, to be
Mhm.
honest.
Yeah.
I want them to grow up in a completely different environment than what I did.
And therapy often for someone that has so much unhealed trauma is a lot more terrifying than, someone that's going for recent trauma or just going to start bettering themselves because
Yeah.
you're going to be opening up a lot of places and you have to be in a place that you're ready to start
So,
really
yeah.
healing those and
And I have
when's a good time for that?
exactly. And I've never felt the last year of my life, um, the last 4 months of my life, but the last year of my life, I definitely have like become way more open and comfortable with the things that have happened to me
Mhm.
through my life and just realizing like I don't have to bask in that. Like I don't have to live those things every day. I do not have to let those things drag me down. And I don't have to have a relationship with people that bring those traumas out for me, even if
Mhm.
they're somebody like my mom or my aunt or uncle or whatever.
Do you
So
have a relationship with your parents now?
my dad, yes. We talk all the time. But my mom, it's so hard because we can talk about my mom. If she listens to this, she'll probably get super upset. But the thing is she and I have never been able to have a relationship because she, I don't want to say thrives, but like she just tears people down.
Yeah.
So, for example, like I got minorly upset with my dad the other day for or something silly, and she just like texted me for hours about being selfish, being ungrateful, being this, being that, and I'm just so used to being name called and like we could have a great 3 days. One
Mhm.
thing triggers her that I did not do, and it's like days of how crappy I am, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just not good for me. So we don't have a relationship, but I don't cut her off because my kids love her. She does
Yeah.
not treat my kids the way that she treats me. And my kids very much so love their Gigi, that she is one of the most important people to them. So we don't speak hardly ever. I don't go visit her very often, but when the kids want to talk, we talk. If she comes out here, she can come visit us and the kids, but she's blocked more than she's unblocked.
Yeah. That's
So
really big of you to be able to navigate those boundaries though for your children and protect them from the bad side because often we can see or I can see people giving fuel to the energy into their children as well so that they also feel that way. So that takes a lot of strength from your perspective to be able to create those boundaries of separating your relationship with her and your kids,
then the kids,
relationship
yeah.
with her. Cuz quite honestly, she doesn't deserve that and she I think she should recognize that that is a gift that's given to her.
Yeah.
And also in the same breath, uh, I am a very empathetic person, and I feel bad for her because she probably deserves a better life than she has right now. And I
Yeah.
hope maybe one day that for your sake, and for her own sake too, that she seeks out some help just to start healing those broken parts for her.
Yeah.
It,
And I don't want to pretend like I'm perfect in the situation either
none of us
because
are. Yeah.
none of us are. And
Yeah.
I definitely, my mom will light the fire, but I'll throw fuel on it. And I hate
Yeah.
that about myself. I hate that I do that. So over the last, it's probably been about two, she moved to Montana. So she used to live three doors down from me, which was,
Oh,
it was
a lot.
hard. It was
Yeah.
hard, yes. But she moved to Montana. So she lives about 8 hours from me, and she's been gone for like 2 to almost 3 years. And it's been great for me
Yeah.
because,
That
only
boundary
because,
can create a healthy
yes.
distance you
And it's
need.
the first time for me where it's easier to, like, when I notice myself arguing back or like starting to be petty back, I just block. I'm just like, she can't come knock on the door, any of that stuff. So I just block. And I feel bad doing that to my mom, but I
Yeah.
don't care. Honestly, my mom,
We
whoever
aren't
you are to
we
me,
aren't responsible for other, healing other
yes.
people.
And I realize, like, I have these little humans that I've got to take care of. And I
Mhm.
get so, like, I don't even know what to call it, but when I'm arguing with my mom, I am not able to be good for anybody because it's all I can focus on. It affects me so heavily. So I just had to learn, wait, like, when it's time to be like, I can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I'd love to get into a little bit now your life now and your journey of parenthood and what that looked like. I know that you've mentioned it a couple times about losing your first son, and if you could kind of talk more about that experience, how it shaped you, and what that personal loss has done, and how you found strength to kind of continue.
yeah. So when I was, I think 19, I got pregnant with my son, Bentley. And I was way young, but I was so excited. I was so excited. Love babies. Babies are just the best thing ever. And so I was extremely excited, but in over my head.
Hmm.
At my 20-week anatomy scan, I went to, so we were so excited to figure out what we were having and just thought it was going to be a normal appointment. When we went in there, you're having a baby, so you'll know what I'm talking about. She went from doing the wand on my belly to instantly inserting the vaginal wand. And I was like,
Interesting. Yeah.
I knew something was wrong. I knew right then and there that something wasn't right. She hit the pause on the computer and she said, I'm going to go grab your Dr. Lou was my doctor. So I'm going to go grab Dr. Lou. I'll be right back. And I looked at my husband and I was like, something happened. Because I got married at 18. I'm pretty sure I was 18 when I got married. So I looked at my husband and I said, something is wrong. I don't know what is going on, but something, just my mommy instinct, something's not right. And the doctor came in and she told me that I got diagnosed with an incompetent cervix, is what they call it.
Hmm.
So my cervical wall was thinning, which meant that my body wasn't going to be able to keep the baby in. So I should have been sent away for a cervical cerclage right then and there, but my doctor wanted to watch me for another week. So she told me to go home, do moderate bed rest, and then come back in a week. So when I went back at 21 weeks, I had zero cervix left. My cervix was completely gone.
Wow.
So at that point, I couldn't even have the cerclage, which is they sew your cervix shut to keep the baby in. And I was just past that point. So I went for what I thought was a doctor's appointment. And it's an hour where I live. We drive far for everything. So it was an hour drive to the doctor's office and 7 hours to where they wanted me to go. So they life flighted me there. So I went to an appointment and then was put on a helicopter and life flighted away to Fargo. As soon as I got there, that I was immediately put into a room where they checked to see if they could save any of my cervix, and they confirmed that it was gone. So they had me they had me stay in Fargo. It was about 3 weeks that I was there. They wanted to try to get Bentley to viability. They said at 24 weeks, the NICU team would do everything that they could to resuscitate him if I had him early, but the hope was that he would stay in. This is going to be kind of traumatic. It was for me too. We were in a hotel room right across from the hospital. And I got up to go to the bathroom, but like I felt like there was something in between my legs and I like felt down there and it was my baby. The
Mm.
whole amniotic sac intact was just falling out of me. So I instantly laid down on the floor in the hotel room, and my husband called the ambulance. And next thing I know, the fire department, the ambulance, the police, everybody is standing over me, and the baby's just coming out. So they got me over to the hospital, and they said there's nothing we can do. He's got to be born. I was 23 weeks and 6 days,
Mm.
and they wouldn't try to save him unless I was 24. So the NICU team came in and they asked me what I wanted. Like, do I want the baby immediately on my chest, or do I want them to see what they can do? And I said I wanted them to try to save him.
Hmm.
So when I had him, my placenta, I know a lot of people don't like that word, but my placenta shattered inside of me. So instead of coming out in one piece, it was in pieces. So they're trying to rush me off to
Yeah, that's
surgery.
very dangerous. I know that.
Yeah, yeah. So they're trying to rush me off to surgery, but my baby is on this table next to me. And so I was like screaming, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. So the doctor was working on me while they were working on him. And thankfully, I did not have to go to surgery. They were able to get it all out in the room we were in. And I believe it was like I had my baby at 7:27 p.m. And I think it was like 10 minutes or so, and I just said, give me my baby. Just give me my baby. They weren't saving him. Nothing was happening. I heard them say over and over again, it's not going to work. So I just said, give me my baby. And they did. Um, oh, I might get a little emotional. They laid him on my chest, and I felt his last few breaths, and I held my baby and they weren't like life breaths. He didn't have lungs that were big
Hmm.
enough for him to sustain, but when you're born, your body, it just kind of functions a little bit, even if you're not there. So I just remember that, like hearing him and seeing his body move, just being really traumatic. But it really set in that moment. Like I just birthed this baby and I don't get him. The hospital was amazing. They let me have him for a full day before I got him cremated, and I did still take him home. But they let me hold him and just have him for a while, and they made me plaques with his hands and his little feet and all of the things. So I've got a lot of things for him. And once I got home, I was I was young, so I feel like I didn't deal with it the way that I would now. We never know how we're going to deal with something like that. But I, I shut down a lot. Like
Hmm.
I cut everybody off. Nobody, I don't want to say was worth my time, but like I couldn't invest myself into anybody at this point. I was like, I've got to focus on me. And I didn't focus on myself in the best ways, but I spent the better half of a year just working and home, work and home, work and home. And I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't interact with anybody. And I don't think after a loss like that, I don't want to advertise like have another baby, it'll help you. Because I don't believe in that. But I I wanted to be a mom so badly. So my husband and I had made the decision to try to have another baby. And it took a while, but not that long, but it took a little while. And once
Yeah.
I got pregnant again, I think that was when I finally started to deal with the loss of Bentley. I don't want to say replacing it because that's just really not it. It's
No.
not it. But it was when I finally was just like, all right, like it wasn't my fault that I lost him. And I thought it
Hmm.
was for so long. I thought, because I smoked cigarettes in my first pregnancy, I'll be very honest about that. So for a long time, I was like, is it because I smoked? Is it because I wasn't eating healthy? Is it because I was working? I would blame myself for everything. So when I got pregnant with Weston at this point, I went to the doctor and they confirmed like I have an incompetent cervix. I have to get a cervical cerclage immediately. So when I got pregnant with Weston, it was
How
kind of
old were you when you
traumatic.
got pregnant with him?
It was 2016, so I was 20. It was right
Mm.
before, yes, because it was in June, so it was right before my 21st birthday. So I I was kind of traumatized again because I was
Yeah,
like,
of
I'm
course.
going to lose this baby again. I'm going to lose another baby. And they kept reassuring me, no, we're doing a cerclage right away. So at, I believe it was 11 weeks, any pregnancy I ever have, I have to get this done.
Hmm.
Because my body just can't hold babies. So when I had Weston, I was 11 weeks and I went in and they gave me an epidural and they took me back. They gave me my cerclage and then I was on strict. It wasn't moderate bed rest like it was with Bentley. It was very strict bed rest, feet in the air, head down here, no working. I wasn't even allowed to vacuum the house. Couldn't pick up
Wow.
more than 2.5 to 5 pounds, nothing. So it was, and we're 11 weeks I got that, and I carried Weston till 37 or 38 weeks. So it was a long pregnancy. But, and I gained over 100 pounds when I was pregnant with him because I was eating terrible and just all the
Yeah.
things. But essentially, I had my baby boy and he was healthy. He was 8 pounds, 7 ounces. And
Wow.
that was having him was what I needed to get through all of the shit that I was going through.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize though, right? We can, I think it's easier to heal a broken part of yourself when you're able to have a positive light at the same
Yes.
time, right? I mean,
Yes.
not relative, but relative in feelings. Like it was easier for me to mourn my dad because I had the excitement of bringing a new life into the world.
Yes.
So, I can see how like I don't think that it's a shameful thing to feel that way, and
Yeah.
it's not like a replacement, but it does heal parts of you to do that. I also think it's important to recognize too. I know that you mentioned it, but a week after you went through that tragic loss of you also lost your brother, and so in that first.
So my brother died after Weston.
Oh, I
After the
thought it
good
was.
after
Oh, okay.
Nope. So my brother came here to visit and my baby was, so Weston was born, he was very healthy, but he had a little bit of an infection. So he had
Hmm.
to get some, antibiotics and stuff when he was first born. Um, and so my brother came here and he seen him through the window in the NICU, gave me a hug. He left, he went back to Michigan. It was just a few days after that he
Oh,
died.
wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it was like, after I had Weston, I was on cloud nine. I was like, I've got this beautiful new baby. He's perfect. My
Hmm.
home life is for once going decent. And I believe it was our first or second night home with Weston. I got the call in the middle of the night that my brother died.
Hmm.
So I was back in the depression. And so I was going to jump into that too. So it's
Yeah.
perfect timing. Um, when Weston was born, I had every intention on I was a good mom to him, but I had all these intentions of being like the best mom, doing all these things. I was going to take him out all the time on walks and just all these things. That is not at all what happened. That is not at all what happened. I was back on the couch depressed. I was back eating my feelings away. I was back to doing all of that. And it took me a long time, probably until like I decided to get healthy in
Hmm.
2019. I was just on the couch depressed about my brother. So
When do you like what was that turning point like? Like what was that realization that made you, have that switch of attitude after all of these, difficult times that you had?
it was watching Weston from the couch. I was watching him grow up from the couch and I hated that. And I was the heaviest I had ever been at this point, and we would take him on walks, and I would struggle to get around the block. And that I wasn't even, I was heavy, but like been a lot heavier, but I'm 5 foot tall. So I was probably about 280 at this point. And at 5 foot, that's a lot. That's a lot. And so
Yeah.
my feet were super swollen. And I just remember one day we were out on a walk and my husband said, do you want me to go get the car or something like that? Because I was breathing so heavy. And he probably doesn't even remember that happening. But for me, I was embarrassed. I was like, I need to get it together. And so I went, and it didn't happen right away. So this was in the summertime of 2018 that this happened. And I just remember trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. What am I going to do? And, I was watching him play one day. I was laying on the couch and I was watching him and I stood up and I was like, I'm going to get off the damn couch is what I'm going to do. And from that point forward, I just kind of started trying to figure out ways I could better myself. And it
Hmm.
really did, it started with going to the gym. Um, Something I never thought I would do.
Yeah. You found a home and a place.
Completely.
I mean, it's for someone that grew up without a home structure, I think that it
Yeah.
probably became a safety place for you as well.
Yeah, it did. I walked in there and I just remember walking in and being like, what am I doing here? Like
Yeah.
I couldn't even do a pull up in high school. I was
Terrifying.
like, yeah, I couldn't even do a push up, pull up in high school. What am I doing? But I remember after my first workout, it was like 10 o'clock at night when I got there and I worked out and I left and I just remember sitting in my car thinking, I just made myself feel like that. Like I just did that myself. Nobody
Mhm.
forced me to do that. And it was the first time I had ever done like something that big to better myself. And it
Mhm.
was the first step I had ever taken to bettering myself. And I think I got addicted to it. 'Cause-
Yeah, I mean, and there's healthy ways that you can get addicted to it, and I mean, there's obviously worse things that you can become addicted to as well. And for someone that has such a strong line of addiction in their family, I think that probably is the best case scenario for what you became addicted to.
yeah. And probably the better thing to become addicted to.
Yeah.
Um, and I did well. I stuck to it. I so January 1st, 2019, I got my gym membership. I think it was like the 7th when I finally went. And I
Mhm.
did it for a full year and I lost 89 pounds. I was so excited.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Um, yes, thank you. And so I decided to have a little party with my friends to like celebrate. Girl, I got pregnant that night. So I, I found out like really early on because I I did. So I found out pretty early on that I got pregnant again and I love my son. Now we're going to talk about Lennox, my youngest. I love him to death and I don't ever want him to listen to this and be like, "Oh my God, I ruined my mom's life," because that's not the case. But I got pregnant with him and I was instantly depressed again. I fall into depression so easily. That is something about me. And I think it's just because of the kind of life I've had.
Mhm.
But I was so depressed because I was like, I just spent a year losing 90 pounds and my doctor is about to sew my cervix shut and put me on bed rest. And I'm about to gain all this weight back.
Mhm.
So I was extremely depressed, but I got the cerclage. I was on bed rest, but my doctor gave me more. I was able to do more with this pregnancy than I was able to with Weston because my pregnancy with Weston went so well. I had to get steroid shots with both my boys, which made me gain weight. So
Mhm.
with Lennox, I did gain weight, but I think instead of over 100 pounds with him, it was like between 60 and 70 that I gained.
So quite a
So
bit
it
less.
was, yeah, it was a lot better for me. And then every appointment, she reassured me that like you're gaining the right amount, da da da. So I felt a
Mhm.
lot better. And for me, getting pregnant with Lennox was like not at all what I was setting out to do, but it was the best out of all three pregnancies. It was the one that showed me that I can have kids. I can be as normal as I can get for my circumstances and my situation. And so when I had Lennox, I had these hopes of getting right back into the gym right away, but it didn't work out like that.
Mhm.
I think after I had Bentley, I might have suffered some postpartum that was very in and out my throughout the years. And after Lennox, it seeped back in, but it wasn't like detrimental like my past depressions had been. I was just like not motivated. I was super unmotivated to get back into my health stuff. I was just like,
Mhm.
I just want to be here with these kids. Um, so it took me a little while to get back into it after that, but I did. I don't think I've mentioned this at all in here. So I'm going to throw this in there.
Okay.
When Weston was about 6 months old, we took in my husband's little sister. So we got a 10-year-old at that time as well. Weston was 6 months old and we took in a 10-year-old, and now she's about to graduate high school. But we
Layers
still
on
have
layers.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we still have her. And I always feel bad if I do bring up my story because it's like, where does that part fit in? But
Yeah.
it's a huge part of the story because that's where mom of three comes in, because I have three children at home. I have
Mhm.
a 17-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. So
Wow. I mean, it's fascinating the amount of levels to your life that take energy, right? Like everything takes a lot of energy, a lot of intention, a lot of choices. And for you to be sitting here with such a positive outlook on life, it's really beautiful to see that, someone with such depth to their story can also overcome and like move forward and take on new challenges and take on lives that aren't your own and give life to
yeah.
other people. So it's really beautiful to see. I do want to bring up, I know that we're coming closer on time, but I want to bring you did a bodybuilding show, and what year was that? Was that recently? Okay.
That was so recent. So I've lost in total 130 pounds, 100% naturally,
Bravo.
100% naturally. Thank you. It is my biggest passion in life. It is one of the biggest things I've ever done.
Hmm.
And so in March, so almost a year ago, March of 2024, I discovered Summer Shredding, and they have a category for people who have had big weight loss. So it's a transformation category. And I was like, wow, I want to
That's
do that.
amazing.
Yes. And so I am getting my loose skin removed on my belly, on my inner thighs. And then before I do that, though, I was like, I want to walk on stage with my loose skin. I kind of just want to like give it to the girl who was 300 pounds and show
Yeah.
people like, you can fucking do this. So I set out to do it. I trained for the first show by myself, no coach, no nothing. I taught myself how to pose, all of the
Mhm.
things. So I did my first show in July of 2024, and I placed, I believe, in that show. Fourth or fifth, I believe it was fifth. And then I went on to the championship in November. So I had to go to Houston for both of these shows. So November, I went back to Houston for the second show. I did not place in that one, but I showed up on that stage with abs for my first time ever in my whole life.
You
And
showed up,
just,
and that's
yes,
the win right there.
yes, I showed up. I walked across the stage with photos of me at my heaviest behind me, and I shared my story in front of so many people. And
Mhm.
I didn't do that show to win. I just want to say that immediately. I never did that show to win. I did that show to honor 300-pound Brittany, who worked her ass off to get
Mhm.
to where I am right now. Um, it's not about weight, but when I did that show, I was 120 pounds. Like I lost major weight, and I was just like, wow. So I was at a body shape that I never thought that I could have with
Mhm.
what I started with. So that show it did a lot for me. It did a lot.
Yeah. And how, what is your life in fitness like now? You're a personal trainer, you're helping other people transform their lives. What's the most fulfilling part to you?
Honestly, I love when I start with a new client. I don't love when they're overwhelmed, but I love when they're like overwhelmed and stressed at first and they're just like, I don't know if I can do this, but like I'm gonna try. But
Mhm.
then we hit that first point where they're seeing those changes within themselves. And a lot of them get emotional. And for me,
Of
that is
course.
the biggest, yeah, and it's the biggest for me, it's just like, wow, like I am helping people accomplish these things, and not only accomplish these things, but figure out that they're worth it. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
worth putting that energy into yourself. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter what kind of things are thrown in your way. You are worth putting the effort into yourself. Whether it's weight loss, trying to get healthy, what it is, we are worth the damn fight. Have
More
to
than just
be,
physical for you, right? Like
yeah,
it's
a
not
hundred
about the
percent.
physical battle. Like it's it's to make you a better person. It's to make you
Yes.
happier. It's to make you love yourself a little bit more.
Helping people find their worth outside of weight loss honestly is just the biggest blessing for me, and just helping people realize they can pour into themselves, because I
Hmm.
think it's so common for us to think that we can't do things for ourselves because it makes us selfish, especially as moms. It makes us selfish to want to do these things, and that's not true.
Yeah. How do you
Not
balance
true.
that? How do you balance being a mom and maintaining your own goals and well-being?
So sometimes I have to remind myself that I'm not selfish, to be totally honest, because I do spend a lot of time at the gym because I train in person and online. So
Hmm.
between at the gym with my clients and then going for my own workout, I feel selfish sometimes because of the amount of hours I'm at the gym. But then I realize my kids would not have the mom that they have if I did not do those things for myself.
Hmm.
Because if I look back to when Weston was growing up, when he was little, I watched him grow from the couch.
Yeah.
He When he took his first steps, I was laying on the couch. When he would be outside playing with his dad, I was on the couch. Now I'm involved in that. I'm taking them to
Hmm.
their sporting events. I'm taking them on runs. I'm taking them to the park. I go on bike rides with them. So I balance it by showing up as a better mom and as a better person for my kids.
Yeah, I love that. And what advice do you think you would give to someone that's feeling stuck or overwhelmed by loss or even just by life's challenges?
So my realization was my siblings are gone and they had a life that they no longer get to live. So why am I going to do that to myself? Why am I going to lay here and sorrow away and watch time pass by when I could live a life to the fullest ability, not just for myself, but to honor them too?
Mm.
So when it comes to feeling stuck and feeling drugged down from loss, live your life for that person. Just, you don't have to live every moment for them, but when you feel
Mhm.
yourself going down, how would that make them feel, and would they want to see you there? Because I know damn straight my brother and sister would not have loved seeing the way that I was living my life. They
Mhm.
would probably be shocked that I'm living the current life that I'm living. So,
Yeah, in the best way possible too.
yeah,
I
yeah.
lost my best friend to addiction in 2016, and I that is the exact saying that I say when I credit the life that I live now. I had a choice then to, go left or right, and I was no longer living for myself anymore. I was living for both of us. So I resonate with that outlook so much. Uh,
Yeah. My childhood best friend is an active heroin addict. And she has been for a long time. And even just seeing like when she posts on social media and stuff and seeing where she's at, I wish I could help. I wish
yeah,
there was something that I could do, but it I don't want to say like it fuels me to be better, but it does in a sense, because like we
yeah.
were so similar at one point
Like it could be
that it
you. That could be you. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's something I look at all the time, is like I could be in that place too, but I decided, to take a different route.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. What is, we're as we wrap up here, what do you want listeners to take away from your story?
I feel like the biggest thing is just that you don't have to be stuck. You do
Hmm.
not have to be stuck forever. And if you are feeling depressed or you're feeling alone or stuck, there are things out there that can bring the color back into your life. You just them.
Hmm. Next for you, right? Like what's next personally? What's next professionally? How can people find you? How can people follow along your journey?
Yeah, so personally, my next biggest move is I'm going for my loose skin removal soon. That will finally complete my 130-pound weight loss, because my loose skin will be gone, and that'll be the first time I've ever seen my body for like what it is after all
Hmm.
these changes. So I'm extremely terrified but excited for that. And I intend to share that journey on my social media and stuff.
Yep.
And
Drop
professionally,
drop
I
your
just
handle.
A, commit to fit on everything at commit to fit with Brit. But professionally, I just opened my training business. So I do online coaching and in person, and I launched a fitness app today. So or a fitness challenge today. So watching that and then just getting more clients so I can help more people transform their
Mhm.
life. And that would be the biggest thing. Handle on everything is commit to fit with Brit. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm not super poppin', but we're trying to get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We're trying to get there.
And one last question I'd like to ask is, if you could say anything to your younger Brittany, what would it be?
Honestly, as simple as it is, everything will be okay. I used to think that nothing would be okay.
Mhm.
And I feel like I'm at the point now where I finally just realize even when things are as shitty as they are, it will be okay.
Yeah.
Everything will work out.
Brittany, thank you so much for sharing your incredible story with us today. Your journey from loss and pain to growth and empowerment is nothing short of inspiring. You've shown us how powerful it can be to take control of your own narrative and turn life's hardest moments into motivation for change. To anyone listening, if Brittany's story resonated with you, remember that it's never too late to rewrite your own story. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on For the Haters.
Thank you.